Okay, I know what you're thinking. There is no way that Matt is dumb enough to cut his finger while flying a drone with the drone propellers. You might be wrong. What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? I was going for a really cool bike ride this weekend with a few buddies actually. We had a big group and it was basically this like ugly Christmas sweater bike ride. We raised a lot of money for a super cool charity, but on that ride I got to catch up with a friend of mine named Brian, and he had a really great suggestion for a video. And that suggestion was to do a video talking about what particular data fields that I use on my particular Garmin bike computer. So what I think I'll do is I'll quickly go over like how you guys can go and change different data fields on your particular computer to set your screens up exactly how you want them. But then maybe come back and we'll just take a quick look at like how my particular screens are set up based on my personal preferences. First turn on our Garmin power meter. It usually comes up with the home screen. And we're gonna look at two different ways to set up data screens. This is the Garmin 820, which does have a touch screen. Otherwise, you can cycle through the menu items with the touch buttons that are typically on the side of the bike computer. So typically what you'll see is this settings button down here. And it'll bring you into kind of a set of menus. There's the setting item within the menu here. And if you look at the very top one, it's activity profiles. From activity profiles, you can set up different types of activity profiles. A lot of people will do, a couple different things. They might list a specific bike that they use for one of these activity profiles, or they may use activity profiles to do things like maybe have a set of screens for training or a set of screens for racing. So you can use activity profiles in that way. In my particular case, the way I have things set up is a bike with power, a bike without power, racing, traveling, and the last one down there, I don't know if you can read that, it says workouts. So let's just take a look at power. Because this touchscreen is highly questionable, what I'm trying to do is have less data screens. So what you'll see here is screen 1 is on and screen 2 is on. I use screen 1 for basically in rides, and screen 2 is really just strictly for kind of a summary. So you'll see more fields on screen 2. So let's take a look at screen 1. First of all, it has 4 fields. On this screen, when you're in settings, you can set the number of fields that you would like per screen. And I'm not gonna adjust that. Wait, let me go back into this. And then also the next thing that you can do after hitting that check mark is you can click on a particular screen or a data field, and you can actually select what you want to display in that location. Okay, the other way to set a particular data field is if you're actually on a particular activity profile, you can still come in here and you can hold down one of these particular data fields and it will select it, and you could change it to something, calories, for example, which is not what I want, but you get the idea. You can actually take these data fields, hold them down. It's kind of like a little faster shortcut way to change your data field. And what I'm doing is actually setting up more activity profiles and less screens, because the touch screen on this particular device is so, how do you say this nicely? Worthless. But on the screen that I would use most, or the activity profile that I would use most, I have 2 screens. In the power profile, I call it power, and then I also have another activity profile for bikes that don't necessarily have power meters. But my bike that I have that uses power, I would like to show these couple of screens. On here, I have the actual time of the ride, so how much time we've been riding, average power, power over 3 seconds in time of day. It's pretty simplified. I don't even have the actual distance of the ride on here. And really what I want to do on these particular things is really focus on, like that average wattage. Most of the time when I'm going out for a bike ride, I'll either like know the distance of the route or the distance won't matter. But average power and the current power will always matter to me. And then on the second screen, remember I only have 2 screens on this particular profile. I kind of have like a summary screen. And on this one, I've got things like average cadence. I have the distance of the particular ride, the average heart rate, total ascent, if I'm doing a hillier ride, average power, normalized power, the time of the ride or how much time we had elapsed, the average speed of that ride. Another in the bottom corner here, the TSS in the kilojoules. And then remember, TSS is just the training stress score. I did talk a little bit about power and different power metrics. So if you're not familiar with some of this stuff, I did 2 different videos talking about power. And I'll link to maybe the second video about power, where we talk a little bit more into detail about power and different metrics. I also have an activity profile for bikes that don't necessarily have power meters, just because I have a road bike and a cyclocross bike that don't have power meters. And on those, I do have some heart rate material, average heart rate and current heart rate displaying. But the one you guys might be most interested in is the actual race activity profile that I have set up. And then in this particular profile, it's really simplified. In fact, there's only 1 screen. And again, that's largely due to the oversensitivity of this computer screen. And I really don't want it changing while I'm actually focusing on a race. But on my race screen, I have 3-second average power. So that's kind of like current power with a little bit of smoothing. My average power for that particular ride. So that gives me a good idea of how I'm doing in the particular race. The current distance, and that's really strictly so I know how much further I have to go in the race, and then the total time. A lot of times if I'm racing like a 40K, an Olympic distance triathlon or something like that, I have some goal times in mind. And so having the time display is one of those small things that I do like to keep an eye on. There's no second screen and there's no summary screen. Typically, I'll stop the computer after the bike segment of the race, and then I'm off running. So there's really no time to come back and look at data. Now, the great thing about these computers is it's tracking everything, right? So it's got your cadence, it's got your heart rate, it has all that stuff being recorded, and you can come back later. You can use a program like, Training Peaks, or there's tons of other programs that you can use. Even Garmin Connect itself has some different ways to display data. And you can come back and you can look at your metrics and kind of really dive into that stuff once your race is over. I have a couple of additional activity profiles. I have one for workouts, which is again also kind of like racing. It's really, really simplified. And then I also have one for travel, which does include maps. But pretty much all the other activity profiles that I have, and they don't have things like the compass or that virtual partner, or even like the cycling dynamics and things like that. Those are screens that I think are great. I just don't necessarily want to look at them or be accidentally switched to them while I'm racing. And again, a lot of that comes down to the weakness of this particular device. Okay, so that's a little bit about some of the screens and some of the data fields that I use on my personal Garmin bike computer. But what I'm really curious about is like, what do you guys use? Is there something that I'm missing? So I want to sweeten the pot a little bit and just kind of ask you guys, to comment below the video. And what I can do is I can send out just some stickers just to sweeten the deal. If you guys comment below and you guys maybe make a recommendation for what I'm missing, or maybe it's just your personal list of what you guys show on which screens that you guys show, what I can do is get your address and just send you a couple stickers just for fun, if you guys are interested and you want something like this. All right, guys, if you guys are into this stuff, and whether that's swimming, biking, or running, consider subscribing below. There's like a little subscribe button down there below somewhere. There's also like a notification bell, and it's typically up top here somewhere. And what that allows you to do is just be notified of when I post any new videos, if any. I usually post like once a week or so. And if you already subscribe, I owe you a huge thank you. I do appreciate it. In addition to that, thank you guys so much for watching another video, and we will see you guys on the next one.